eyes, let your shoulders drop. You have carried the weight of the world on them for the last 14 hours, and they deserve to rest now. The room around you is dark, and the night has arrived to do what it has always done for thousands of years, to wrap the earth in a quiet blanket and invite all living things to let go. Yet, as you lie here, your body is still, but your mind is running. It is jumping from the email you forgot to reply to the comment someone made in the break room, to the mounting stack of bills, to a conversation from 5 years ago that you wish you could rewrite. This is what we call the monkey mind. It is a restless, tired traveler that does not know how to unpack its bags. It leaps from branch to branch, searching for problems to solve, trying to protect you from things that are not even happening right now. It is a modern loneliness that many of us in this fast-paced, demanding world know all too well. We run all day, and when we finally turn off the lights, the quiet becomes deafening because the noise inside our heads is suddenly the only thing we can hear. But I want you to know something very important tonight. This restlessness, this heavy tightness in your chest, is not a failure. It is not a sign that you are broken or that you are doing life wrong. It is simply the weather of a tired mind. And just like the clouds that gather in the evening sky, this weather will pass if we stop fighting it. Tonight, we are going to walk together down a very old, very gentle path. We are going to explore the Four Noble Truths, not as ancient, abstract philosophies, but as direct, practical medicine for your sleep and your soul. You do not need to understand Buddhism. You do not need to remember any rules, and you certainly do not need to force yourself to fall asleep. All you need to do is just breathe. Right here, right now, and let my voice be a soft hand that guides your mind back to the present moment, where you are safe, where you are warm, and where nothing more is required of you. Let us take a deep, slow breath together. Feel the cool air enter your nostrils, filling your lungs, and then let it go with a long, soft sigh. Let the mattress hold your body. You do not need to hold yourself up anymore. The floor, the bed, the earth beneath you, they are strong enough to carry your weight. For deep sleep to find you, we must first understand why the monkey mind barks so loudly when the lights go out. During the day, your attention is divided into 100 different directions. You are driving, working, talking, scrolling, making decisions, and managing your life. This external noise acts like a dam, holding back the deeper currents of your unresolved thoughts and emotions. But when you lie down and the room falls silent, the dam opens. Every undone task, every unspoken word, every lingering worry comes rushing into the emptiness. The mind, in its survival instinct, mistakes this silence for danger. It begins to scan for threats, rehashing old arguments and planning for tomorrow's uncertainties. It is like a faithful guard dog that has been working all day and does not know how to sleep when the shift is over. It keeps barking at the shadows on the wall, thinking it is keeping you safe. But you can look at this barking mind with a sense of gentle warmth. You can say to it, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but there is nothing to fight tonight. There are no emails to answer at 2 in the morning. There are no decisions that can be made in the dark. Every plan you are trying to perfect right now will be much clearer when the sun rises. For now, your only job is to be right here, in this bed, listening to the rain falling softly outside, or the quiet rhythm of your own breathing. Let the monkey mind have its thoughts, but you do not have to climb onto the branches with it. You can just watch it from the ground, knowing that eventually the monkey will grow tired and fall asleep too. This brings us to the very first truth that the Buddha spoke of on a cool evening in a quiet deer park long ago. He called it the first noble truth, and it is simply the recognition that life carries a natural sense of unsettledness. In the old language, the word he used was dukkha. For many years, this word has been translated as suffering, which sounds very heavy, almost like a punishment. But the older, deeper meaning of dukkha is much softer. It refers to a wheel that is slightly out of alignment, or a joint that does not quite fit. It is that quiet, underlying feeling that things are not completely settled, that life is constantly changing, and that we cannot find a permanent place to rest our feet. We feel it when we lose what we love, when we face unexpected changes, or when we simply feel a nameless anxiety on a Sunday evening. The Buddha did not teach this truth to make us sad. He taught it because naming the difficulty is the very first step toward making peace with it. Think of a traveler who is lost in a vast forest. If she pretends she knows the way and keeps walking in circles, she will exhaust herself. But the moment she stops, looks around, and admits to herself, "I am lost," something inside her relaxes. She stops running. She can finally sit down, rest, and look for a real path forward. Admitting that life is hard sometimes, that your mind is restless tonight, is the door to your freedom. You do not have to pretend to have it all together. You do not have to be strong right now. It is okay to be tired. It is okay to feel overwhelmed. This is the natural weather of being a human being. We all go through seasons of warmth and seasons of cold, mornings of lightness and nights of heavy shadows. The body follows these seasons, and so does the mind. When you allow yourself to feel whatever is here, without judging it as good or bad, the resistance melts away, and a quiet space opens up inside you for deep sleep. To understand how this first truth can heal our modern nighttime anxiety, let us look at the beautiful imagery of the turning seasons. Imagine a great tree standing on a hill. In the spring, it is covered in tender green buds, pulsing with life and energy. In the summer, its leaves are thick and heavy, providing deep shade for the weary travelers who sit beneath it. But when autumn comes, the wind grows cool, and the leaves begin to turn gold, then brown, and then they let go. One by one, they fall to the earth, leaving the branches bare against the gray winter sky. The tree does not fight the autumn wind. It does not cling to its leaves, screaming that it must remain green forever. It does not look at the bare winter branches and call them a failure. The tree understands in its quiet ancient wisdom that the letting fall of the leaf is necessary for the rest of the winter, and that the rest of the winter is what allows the new growth of spring to return. Our lives are no different from that tree. We have seasons of high productivity, where our leaves are green and we are doing so much. But we also have seasons where we must let go, where our energy must return to the roots, where we must enter the quiet ground of rest. Your sleeplessness tonight is often a result of trying to live in a perpetual summer. We expect ourselves to be productive, cheerful, and strong 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We carry the demands of our working day into the sacred space of the night, refusing to let our leaves fall. But tonight, you can let them go. Let the worries of today fall to the ground like old leaves. They have done their work. They do not belong on your branches anymore. Your bare, quiet mind is not a mistake. It is your winter, your sacred time of rest. Just breathe and let the seasons turn. There is a very famous story from the old tradition that helps us see how we are all connected in this natural season of letting go. It is the story of a young woman named Kisa Gotami. She lived in a small village, and she had lost her only child, a tiny boy whom she loved more than her own breath. Her grief was so vast, so heavy, that her mind could not accept what had happened. She carried her quiet, still baby in her arms, going from house to house in her village, begging her neighbors for medicine to wake him up. The villagers looked at her with deep sorrow. They loved her, but they had no medicine for death. Finally, a wise elder took her by the hand and said, "Go to the grove at the edge of the forest. The Buddha is resting there. He is a great physician of the soul. Perhaps he has the medicine you seek." Kisa Gotami ran to the grove, her heart beating with a wild, desperate hope. She fell at the Buddha's feet, holding her child out to him, crying, "Please, give me the medicine that will heal my son." The Buddha looked down at her with eyes that held no judgment, only a deep, infinite kindness. He listened to her story, and then he said gently, "Yes, I can make this medicine for you. But first, you must do one small thing. You must go back into the village, knock on the doors, and bring me a single mustard seed. But the seed must come from a home that has never known the loss of a child, a parent, a spouse, or a friend." Kisa Gotami thanked him with tears of joy. She felt the first lift of hope she had known in days. She ran back to the first house in the village, knocked on the door, and asked, "Do you have a mustard seed for the Buddha's medicine?" The family answered, "Yes, of course, we have many." But then she asked the condition, "Has this house ever known loss?" The mother of the house looked down, her eyes growing soft, and said, "Ah, my husband's father passed away in this very room last winter. We still miss him every time we sit down to eat." Kisa Gotami bowed, thanked her, and walked to the next house. A young man opened the door. When she asked her question, he shook his head softly and said, "My younger sister fell ill 2 summers ago, and we buried her under the great mango tree on the hill. I cannot give you that seed." She went to the 3rd house, the 4th, the 5th, and the 100th. She walked through every street, every alley, and every corner of the village. At every single door, she was offered a mustard seed, but at every single door, she heard a story of sorrow. A grandfather who had grown old and let go in his sleep, a mother who had passed too soon, a friend who had gone on a long journey and never returned. There was not a single household in the entire valley that had not known the touch of change and loss. As the sun began to set, casting long golden shadows across the rice fields, Kisa Gotami sat down on a low stone wall at the edge of the road. She looked at the lights of the houses being lit one by one in the gathering dusk. She looked at her quiet child in her lap, and suddenly, a deep, profound understanding washed over her. She had thought her sorrow was a unique weight, a cruel punishment meant for her alone. She had felt so isolated in her pain, so cut off from the rest of the world. But now, she saw that she was not alone. She had never been alone. Every light in every window was shining over a home that had loved, that had lost, and that had learned to carry its scars. Her sorrow was not a wall that separated her from others. It was the very thread that wove her into the great, quiet tapestry of all human beings. She rose from the wall, carried her child gently to the quiet forest, and laid him down to rest under the shade of a wild tree. Then, she walked back to the grove, where the Buddha was waiting. When she sat down before him, her hands were empty. The Buddha asked her softly, "Did you find the mustard seed, my daughter?" She looked into his kind eyes, her own eyes now clear and filled with a quiet peace, and said, "No, Master. I could not find the seed, but I found something much greater. I found that my sorrow is the sorrow of the world, and that we are all walking this path together." The Buddha smiled, a gentle, silent nod of agreement, and said, "This is the first noble truth of our life. The wheel of change turns for everyone, and when you see that it turns for everyone, the heavy weight of your isolation begins to lift. You do not have to carry the burden of thinking that you are the only one who is struggling, the only one who is awake in the middle of the night, or the only one whose heart is aching. You belong to the great, quiet company of all who have ever lived, loved, and let go. Let this truth wash over your tired heart tonight. As you lie in your bed, look out at the dark world. There are millions of windows out there, and behind many of them, there are others who are also watching the night, also trying to quiet their minds, also carrying their own silent hopes and fears. You are part of them, and they are part of you. In this shared humanness, there is a deep, comforting warmth. You do not have to fight the night alone. Just breathe and rest in the safety of this shared connection. Let us explore the second noble truth now, which takes us a step deeper into the forest of the mind. The Buddha said that while the first truth recognizes that life has its natural difficulties, the second truth explains why we suffer so deeply from them. He used the word tanha, which is often translated as craving or clinging, but in its simplest form, it means a deep, insatiable thirst. It is the constant, unconscious reaching of the mind for things to be different than they are. We want pleasant feelings to stay forever. We want unpleasant feelings to go away immediately. We want the past to be rewritten, and we want the future to be completely guaranteed. It is like a hand that is constantly clenched, trying to grab onto a running stream, hoping to hold the water. But the tighter the hand squeezes, the faster the water runs through the fingers, and the more tired the hand becomes. The suffering we feel at night is rarely caused by the simple fact that we are awake. It is caused by the second arrow that we shoot into ourselves. The Buddha taught the beautiful lesson of the two arrows to explain this. He said, imagine a man who is walking through a field and is struck by an arrow. It is painful. The wound is real, and the body feels the sharp sting. But then, that same man, out of fear and anger, picks up a second arrow and strikes himself in the exact same spot. He now has the pain of two wounds. The first arrow is the natural difficulty of life, a cold wind, an unexpected expense, a difficult conversation, or a night of restlessness. This is unavoidable. It is part of the weather of being alive. But the second arrow is the mind's reaction to the first. It is the hour we spend lying in bed, turning the conversation over and over, finding new ways to be hurt. It is the anger at our body for not falling asleep fast enough. It is the anxious voice that says, if I don't sleep now, tomorrow will be a disaster. The first arrow causes a moment of pain. The second arrow turns that pain into hours of suffering. Most of us are very skilled at shooting ourselves with second arrows, especially in the dark. We take a simple, natural state, tiredness, sadness, or a restless mind, and we wrap it in a heavy, complicated story. We say, why can't I just be normal? Why is my mind always like this? What is wrong with me? But there is nothing wrong with you. The mind is simply doing what an untrained mind does. It is trying to solve problems that do not exist in the present moment. Every time you catch yourself worrying about tomorrow, you are shooting a second arrow. Every time you rehash an old mistake, you are shooting a second arrow. Tonight, you can make a gentle choice. You can decide to put the second arrow down. When a thought of worry arises, you can look at it and say, there is the first arrow of today's stress. I feel it. It is tight and it is uncomfortable. But I do not need to strike myself again. I do not need to build a whole story around it. I can just let the sensation be there, without fighting it, without trying to fix it, and without demanding that it go away. When you stop fighting the restlessness itself begins to change. It loses its sharp edge. It becomes just a physical sensation, a wave of energy that moves through the body and eventually washes away, leaving you in a quiet, empty space where sleep can naturally find you. To see how this works in a practical, real-life way, let us listen to another story that has been cherished for many generations. It is the story of two Zen monks who were walking together along a muddy path that wound through the beautiful misty hills after a heavy spring rain. The older monk had been practicing for many decades. His face was lined with deep peace, and his steps were steady and light. The younger monk was still in the early days of his training. He was earnest, but his mind was often busy, constantly checking his posture and worrying about whether he was following all the rules of the temple. As they came to a bend in the road, they found a wide, rushing river that had overflowed its banks. Standing at the edge of the water was a young woman dressed in exquisite, delicate silk clothes. She had clearly come to cross the river, but the current was too swift, and she was terrified of ruining her beautiful garments. She looked at the two monks with pleading, helpless eyes. Now, the rules of their order were very strict. Monks were never supposed to touch a woman, nor were they even supposed to look at them directly. The younger monk hesitated. He looked at the rushing water, then at the woman, and then at his teacher, his mind instantly filling with questions and moral dilemmas. What is the right thing to do? If we help her, we break our vows. If we don't help her, we lack compassion. But before the younger monk could finish his thought, the older monk walked straight to the woman, knelt down and said with a warm, gentle smile, "Climb on my back. I will carry you across." The woman's face lit up with relief. She climbed onto his sturdy shoulders, and the older monk stepped carefully into the cold, swirling current. He found his footing on the slippery stones, walked slowly to the other side, and set her down gently on the dry grass. She bowed deeply in gratitude, and the older monk bowed in return. Then, without saying a word, he turned and continued walking along the muddy path. The younger monk followed him, but his mind was in a complete storm. He could not believe what he had just witnessed. His teacher, the master of the temple, had touched a woman. He had carried her on his back. The younger monk walked in silence, but inside his head, a loud, angry dialogue was playing. How could he do that? What about our vows? Is he not supposed to be an example of pure conduct? What if someone saw us? He turned the scene over and over, his face growing tighter, his steps heavier, and more agitated with every mile. He was no longer noticing the beautiful mist on the hills, nor the sweet smell of the wet earth, nor the gentle song of the birds. He was entirely trapped in the river of his own thoughts. They walked for 1 hour, then 2 hours, then 3. The sun was beginning to touch the western hills, casting a warm, red glow across the path. Finally, when he could no longer contain the pressure inside his chest, the younger monk burst out, "Brother, how could you do that? You know our sacred rule. We are not allowed to touch a woman. And yet, you picked that young woman up, carried her on your back, and walked through the river with her. How can you live with yourself?" The older monk stopped walking. He turned around slowly and looked at his young companion with eyes that were filled with a soft, warm humor. There was no defensiveness in his posture, no anger in his voice. He simply smiled and said gently, "My dear friend, I set that woman down on the far bank of the river 3 hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" The younger monk stood frozen in the middle of the road. The silence of the evening settled around them. He could hear the soft breeze rustling the leaves of the bamboo trees. He could hear his own rapid breathing, and in that quiet moment, he saw the truth. The older monk had met a need in the present moment, acted with pure kindness, and then let it go immediately. He was free, walking with a light heart and empty hands. But the younger monk, in his attempt to be perfect and follow the rules, had picked up the woman in his mind, carried her for 3 hours, and made himself miserable, heavy, and exhausted. This is what we do every night when we lie down to sleep. The events of the day are over. The difficult meeting ended at noon. The awkward conversation happened at 3. The traffic jam is resolved. The people who hurt us have moved on with their lives. They are not in your bedroom. They are not lying next to you. The day has set those burdens down hours ago on the far bank of the river, but you are still carrying them. You have brought them under the covers, placed them on your pillow, and you are trying to sleep with a heavy pack on your back. Tonight, you can ask yourself the older monk's question: why am I still carrying this? Let the question drift through your mind like a soft breeze. You do not need to find an intellectual answer. Just feel the physical sensation of carrying. Feel the tightness in your forehead, the clenching of your jaw, the holding of your breath. These are the physical signs of holding on. And now, very slowly, imagine opening your hands. You do not have to carry the day anymore. It is in the past. And the past is a country that no longer exists. You cannot visit it. You cannot change its landscape. And you cannot repair its roads tonight. Let it be what it was. Let the mistakes be mistakes. Let the unfinished tasks remain unfinished. The world will not fall apart if you rest for 8 hours. In fact, the only way to meet the world with strength and wisdom tomorrow is to put it down tonight. Let the river flow, let the day go, and let yourself float on the deep, quiet current of the present moment. This leads us to the beautiful promise of the third noble truth. The Buddha said that just as suffering has a cause, which is our clinging and resisting, it also has an end. The end of suffering is not a magical state that you must travel to a mountaintop to find. It is simply what remains when the gripping stops. He called this state Nirodha, which means the cessation of the fire, or the cooling of the flame. Imagine a hot summer day. You have been walking for miles under a blazing sun, carrying a heavy stone in each hand. Your muscles are screaming, your throat is dry, and your heart is beating fast. Suddenly, you find a deep, shady grove with a cool, clear pool of water. You walk into the shade, let the heavy stones fall from your hands, and sit down on the soft grass. You did not have to buy the shade. You did not have to earn the cool water. The peace was already there, waiting for you. All you had to do was stop walking, drop the stones, and rest. This is the third truth. Peace is not something you need to create. It is not a goal you need to achieve through hard work. It is your natural state. It is the quiet lake that is always there beneath the ripples of your thoughts. When the wind of your worry stops blowing, the water naturally grows still, and the moon of your deepest, most beautiful nature is reflected perfectly on the surface. To feel this quiet lake within you, let us listen to another story from the ancient forest. Long ago, in a remote mountain range, there lived an old Zen master who spent his days in a tiny hut made of rough cedar wood. He had lived there for 40 years, owning almost nothing. His hut held only a single straw mat for sleeping, an old clay cup, a wooden bowl for his rice, and one worn brown wool robe that protected him from the cold mountain winters. He had no locks on his door, no coins in his pockets, and no plans for the future. He spent his days writing simple poetry on scraps of paper, watching the clouds float across the high peaks and listening to the mountain stream. One evening, after walking a long distance to visit an old friend in the valley below, the master returned to his hut late at night. The moon was very bright, casting a silver, ethereal light over the forest and the mountain path. As he approached his door, he noticed a soft yellow light flickering inside. Someone was there. The master did not feel anger, nor did he feel fear. He simply slowed his steps and looked through the open window. Inside the hut was a thief. The man was thin, dressed in tattered rags, and his hands were shaking as he searched every corner of the small room. He looked under the sleeping mat, behind the wooden bowl, and in the empty clay cup, hoping to find some food, some coins, or anything of value that he could sell in the village. But the hut was completely empty. There was nothing to steal. The master felt a deep, profound wave of compassion for this poor man who had climbed a steep, dangerous mountain path in the middle of the night, only to find nothing. The master stepped into the doorway and said with a voice that was as warm and gentle as a crackling fire, "Welcome, my friend. I am so sorry you have traveled all this way, but there is really nothing here for you to take." The thief startled, dropping the small lamp he was holding, his face pale with terror. He backed into the corner, expecting the master to scream, call for help, or attack him. But the master only smiled with a quiet, reassuring gentleness. He reached up, untied the cord around his waist, and took off his worn wool robe, the only robe he owned, the one that kept him warm on the freezing winter nights. He folded it carefully with both hands, held it out to the thief, and said, "Please, do not leave with empty hands. This robe is not much, but it will keep you warm on your long journey down the mountain." The thief stared at the master in complete disbelief. His mind could not comprehend such kindness. Slowly, with trembling hands, he reached out, took the robe, bowed quickly, and slipped out of the hut, disappearing into the dark forest. The master stood in the doorway, wearing only his thin undergarments, feeling the cool mountain breeze against his skin. He sat down on the wooden step of his hut, looked up at the vast night sky, and watched the full moon floating silent and majestic above the peaks, painting the entire valley in silver and light. He smiled a beautiful, radiant smile and said softly to himself, "Poor fellow. I wish I could have given him this beautiful moon." In the morning, when the sun rose, the master's friends came up from the village to bring him a small basket of rice. They found him sitting on the step, shivering slightly in the cool morning air. But his eyes were brighter, and his face was more peaceful than they had ever seen him. When they heard what had happened, they were upset on his behalf. They said, "How can you be so calm? That man was a criminal. He took your only robe. How will you stay warm? What will you do?" The master looked at them with a gentle, patient smile and said, "The robe was a useful thing, but it was only a garment. It came to me, and now it has gone to someone else who clearly needed it more. I have lost nothing. The moon is still here. The mountains are still here. The quiet is still here." The master understood the third noble truth in his very bones. He had nothing to lose because he did not cling to anything. His peace did not depend on the robe, the hut, or the approval of others. He was free because his hands were always open. When the robe was there, he wore it. When it was gone, he let it go. This is the freedom that is waiting for you tonight. Most of our suffering comes from our attempt to build a fort out of things that are constantly changing. We try to secure our happiness by holding on to our wealth, our reputation, our health, our relationships, and even our youth. But the natural law of life is change. Things will come and things will go. The seasons will turn and the leaves will fall. If your peace depends on everything being perfect, you will never sleep. You will spend your nights guarding the walls of your fort, terrified of the wind. But if you can be like the old master, with your hands open, you can let the world change without losing your peace. You can say to the night, the day has gone, and that is okay. My plans have changed, and that is okay. My body is tired, and that is okay. When you let go of the need to control the river, you can finally float. You do not need to be a master of Zen to feel this. You only need to open your hand, let the heavy stones of your worries fall, and rest under the wide, silent sky of your own present moment. Let us now step onto the fourth and final part of this ancient path. The Buddha called it the Eightfold Path, and it is the practical way to tune the strings of your mind so that you can live in harmony with the world and sleep in peace every night. The name can sound very formal, but the practice is incredibly simple and down to earth. It is made of 8 gentle qualities that work together like the threads of a soft, warm blanket. They are right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The word right in this path is often misunderstood in our modern, achievement-oriented culture. We hear the word right, and we immediately think of correct, perfect, or passing a test. We worry about being wrong, failing, or not doing it good enough. But in the older language, the word used was sama, which means well-tuned, in harmony, or balanced. Think of a musical instrument, like a beautiful lute or a guitar. If you tighten the strings too much, they will snap, and there will be no music. If you leave the strings too loose, they will not sing, and there will be no music. The strings must be tuned in the middle, neither too tight nor too loose. Only then can the instrument make beautiful, soul-stirring music. This is the middle way. The fourth noble truth is the art of tuning your life in the middle. Most of us spend our lives in one of the two extremes. Either we are tightening ourselves to the breaking point, working too hard, planning too much, demanding perfection from our bodies and our minds, or we are letting ourselves go completely into distraction and laziness, allowing our minds to drift in negative thoughts and useless worries. At night, we try to force ourselves to sleep with a tense, tight mind, which is like trying to play a beautiful melody on a string that is about to break. But the Buddha reminds us that the path to peace is found in the gentle balance of the middle. You do not need to fight your mind, but you also do not need to let it run wild. You can tune your effort in the middle, letting your mind be quiet, steady, and soft. To see how this gentle tuning can transform your life, let us listen to another story that has been told for over 2,000 years. It is the story of a young monk named Sona. Before he left his home to follow the Buddha, Sona had been a famous and highly talented musician. He played the lute, and people would travel from many villages to hear his beautiful, delicate melodies. He was an earnest, passionate young man, and when he joined the monastery, he threw himself into the practice of meditation with the exact same intensity he had brought to his music. He determined that he would find freedom faster than anyone else. He walked in meditation for so many hours that his feet became blistered and sore. He slept only a few hours each night, and he ate barely enough food to keep himself standing. But after many months of this extreme effort, Sona was completely exhausted, deeply discouraged, and no closer to peace. One evening, as he sat alone at the edge of the forest, watching the moon rise, he began to weep. He thought to himself, "I have tried harder than anyone. I have denied myself sleep, food, and comfort. Yet my mind is still restless, and my heart is still heavy. Perhaps I am not cut off for this path. Perhaps I should return to my old life, play my lute, and find what joy I can in the world." The Buddha heard about Sona's struggle. He walked quietly to the edge of the forest, sat down beside the tired young monk on the soft grass, and looked at him with great, silent compassion. After a long moment, the Buddha spoke gently. "Sona, I have heard that before you became a monk, you were a highly skilled musician who played the lute. Is that true?" Sona looked up, wiped his tears, and nodded. "Yes, teacher, it is true. I loved the lute, and I played it every day." The Buddha smiled and said, "Tell me, Sona, when you played your lute, what happened if you tuned the strings too tight?" Sona answered, "Ah, teacher, if the strings were too tight, they would snap when I touched them, or they would make a harsh, discordant sound that no one wanted to hear." "And what happened," the Buddha asked, "if you left the strings too loose?" Sona replied, "They would not sing at all. They would make a dull, flat sound, and there would be no music." "And when," the Buddha asked, "were the strings tuned just right?" Sona's face softened, a warm, beautiful memory lighting up his eyes, and he said, "When they were tuned in the middle, neither too tight nor too loose." Then the lute would sing beautifully, and the music would touch the hearts of everyone who heard it. The Buddha nodded slowly and said, "So it is with your mind and your practice, Sona. If you strain too hard, you will exhaust your body and make your mind restless. If you slacken off and become lazy, you will drift in distraction. Tune your effort in the middle. Be gentle with your body. Be patient with your mind. Let your practice be like a well-tuned string." Sona understood the lesson in his very bones. He stayed in the monastery, stopped his harsh fasting and extreme walking, and began to treat his body and mind with a deep, gentle kindness. He tuned his effort in the middle, and within a short time, his mind settled naturally into a deep, steady peace, and his heart found the freedom he had been chasing for so long. Let this story settle into your body tonight. How tight are the strings of your life right now? Have you been tightening them all day, trying to control every outcome, trying to be perfect, trying to manage everyone's expectations? If so, it is no wonder you cannot sleep. Your strings are stretched to the breaking point, but tonight, you do not need to play any difficult music. You can let the tension go. You can loosen the pegs of your mind just a little bit. Let the shoulders drop. Let the face soften. Let the breath return to its natural, unforced rhythm. You do not need to force yourself to fall asleep, and you do not need to force yourself to be quiet. Just be in the middle. If a thought comes, let it come, but do not chase it. If silence comes, let it be silence, but do not cling to it. This gentle balance is the middle way. It is the place where the music of your soul naturally happens, and it is the place where deep, restorative sleep will find you, without any effort at all. This brings us to the most sacred part of our journey tonight. The story of the Buddha's own night of awakening under the great Bodhi tree. He had spent 6 long years in the forest, trying every extreme practice, fasting until his body was like a skeleton, and sitting for days in the burning sun and freezing rain. He had pushed himself to the very edge of death, yet he was no closer to peace. One afternoon, as he sat by a rushing river, exhausted and barely able to stand, he heard the words of a music teacher passing by on a boat, speaking to his student about the strings of an instrument. He realized, in a flash of deep insight, that his 6 years of extreme struggle had been a mistake. He had been trying to force peace through violence to his own body. He stood up, bathed in the cool river, and accepted a simple bowl of rice and milk offered by a young village girl named Sujata. His 5 companions, who believed that freedom could only be won through extreme pain, looked at him with disappointment and walked away, leaving him completely alone. But the young seeker did not mind. He felt a deep, steady strength returning to his limbs. He walked slowly through the forest until he came to a wide, majestic tree with thick green leaves and broad branches that spread out like a great umbrella over the grass. It was a peepala tree, but it would soon be remembered by millions of people as the Bodhi tree, the tree of awakening. He stood before it, feeling its ancient, quiet presence. He gathered a small handful of fresh, soft grass from the field, arranged it carefully at the foot of the trunk, and sat down. He crossed his legs, rested his hands open in his lap, and made a quiet, steady vow to his own heart. I will not get up from this place until I have found the truth that sets the heart free. He did not make this vow with anger or tension. He made it with the quiet confidence of a man who has finally found the middle way. As the sun began to set, casting a warm purple glow over the hills and the river, the long night of his awakening began. The forest grew very quiet. The birds settled in the branches of the tree, and the stars came out one by one, like tiny lamps lit in the vast dome of the sky. The Buddha sat in deep, silent mindfulness, watching his breath enter and leave his body, letting his mind settle into a state of perfect, unclouded clarity. But the ancient stories tell us that as the night grew deeper, the great Lord of Illusion, whom they call Mara, came to challenge him. Mara did not arrive with swords or armies. He arrived with the doubts that live in the shadow of every human mind. He spoke with voices that were soft and cunning, whispering into the seeker's ear, "Who do you think you are to sit here? Many great kings and wise sages have sought this peace and failed. You are just an ordinary man. You have abandoned your family, your palace, and your duties. You are a failure. Go back to your father's house. Get up and run. Most of us know these voices of Mara very well. They are the same voices that whisper to us in the quiet hours of the midnight, telling us that we are not enough, that we have made too many mistakes, that tomorrow will be too hard, and that we will never find our way. But the Buddha did not argue with the voices of Mara. He did not try to prove them wrong, and he did not push them away with anger. He knew that fighting the shadows only makes them look bigger. Instead, he simply sat in perfect, steady presence, letting the voices speak without believing a single word they said. He looked at the doubts with a sense of deep, patient warmth, knowing that they were nothing but old memories and passing clouds in the sky of his mind. Finally, when Mara demanded to know what right the seeker had to sit on the sacred ground of the tree, the Buddha did a beautiful, silent thing. He let his right hand fall gently from his lap. He reached down and let his fingertips touch the cool, dark soil of the earth beside him. He did not speak a word. He simply let his hand rest on the ground, as if to say, "The earth itself is my witness. I am here. I am rooted in what is real. I do not need the approval of the voices in the air. The earth has carried my steps through all my lifetimes, and it knows my heart is pure." The ancient stories say that the moment the Buddha's fingers touched the soil, a deep, silent tremor of agreement went through the ground. The earth welcomed his touch, and the illusions of Mara shattered like glass, disappearing into the dark night air. The doubts were gone. The voices were quiet. There was nothing left but the deep, majestic silence of the forest, the cool night air, and the steady breath of the awakened one. Let us pause here for a few breaths. Feel your own body resting on the bed. You can do the exact same thing the Buddha did under his tree. If the voices of doubt, worry, or overthinking come to you tonight, you do not need to fight them. You do not need to prove them wrong. You can simply let your attention fall down into your body. Feel the weight of your legs, the warmth of your hands, the gentle rise and fall of your chest. This is your earth-touching gesture. You are grounding yourself in the real, physical presence of the moment. The mattress, the room, the earth beneath your house, they are holding you right now, just as the soil held the Buddha. You are here. You are safe. You are real. The worries in your head are just shadows, but the breath in your body is real, and the warmth of your blanket is real. Let yourself sink deep into this physical reality, leaving the world of thoughts behind. As the night moved into its third and deepest watch, just before the dawn, the Buddha looked up through the dark leaves of the Bodhi tree and saw the morning star rising steady and bright on the eastern horizon. It was a single, radiant point of light, holding the first promise of the new day. He looked at the star, and in that silent gaze, the last veil of his mind fell away. He saw that he was not separate from the star, nor from the tree, nor from the river, nor from any living being in the vast universe. He saw that the peace he had been hunting for 6 years through pain and struggle was not a destination. It was the very nature of awareness itself. He had never lost it, and he could never lose it. The search was over. The night had ended, and he was awake. He rose slowly from the grass, his body light, his mind clear as a summer sky. He looked at the tree that had sheltered him through the long night and bowed in deep, silent gratitude. Then, he walked out into the morning light, not as a king, not as a god, but as a simple, peaceful man who had remembered how to live with an open heart. This is the invitation of the Four Noble Truths. The path is not a struggle to become someone else. It is a gentle journey of remembering who you have always been. The quiet, peaceful presence that was there when you were a child. The one who knows how to watch the clouds, the one who knows how to listen to the rain, and the one who knows how to rest when the day is done. As the warmth of this deep, gentle understanding settles into your bones, we can begin to see the quiet sunrise of the third noble truth, which is the softest and most hopeful promise ever whispered to a restless heart. Tonight, as you lie in the quiet of your room, your mind might still be whispering its endless worries about the future, about the bills that are waiting on the counter, about the tasks that left you feeling drained at your 9-to-5 desk, or about the simple, heavy fear of not being enough. We live in a world that tells us we must constantly build, constantly fix, and constantly buy our way into peace. We purchase weighted blankets, we download sleep applications, we buy noise-canceling headphones, and we search the internet late into the night for some secret method to quiet our thoughts. But the third noble truth points us in a completely opposite direction, reminding us that peace is not an acquisition, but a letting go. The Buddha used the word nirodha to describe this state, a word that simply means the cooling of a flame or the cessation of a struggle. It is the recognition that the quiet, peaceful stillness you are seeking is not something you need to build from scratch. It is already here, resting quietly at the very bottom of your being, waiting for you to stop stirring the water. Imagine a long, hot summer day in the valley, where you have been walking for miles along a dusty, sun-baked road, carrying a heavy suitcase in each hand. Your shoulders are aching, your fingers are stiff from gripping the handles, and your forehead is damp with sweat. Suddenly, you step off the road and walk into a cool, silent forest grove, where the sunlight filters softly through a canopy of ancient oak leaves. You set the heavy suitcases down on the damp grass. You open your hands, and you sit down. In that exact moment, you did not have to buy the cool air of the forest. You did not have to earn the softness of the grass. You did not have to perform any difficult task to make the shade appear. The peace was already there, waiting for you all along. Your only work was to stop walking, let go of the heavy bags, and allow yourself to be met by the silence. This is what it means to practice the third noble truth tonight. Your thoughts are like those heavy suitcases. You have been carrying them all day, organizing your schedules, anticipating problems, and defending your life. But now, the road has ended for the day. The bedroom is dark. The world has closed its doors. You can set the bags down. You do not need to carry the corporate ladder, the family expectations, or the financial worries under the covers with you. Just breathe. Let your hands open, and let the quietness of the room wrap around you like a soft, warm blanket. You are not failing by resting. You are simply allowing the natural season of your winter to return, knowing that the stillness is your birthright. In the deep, ancient silence of the mountain forests, there is an old story that has been told for hundreds of winters, showing us what happens when we stop trying to guard our lives like a fortress and instead learn the quiet beauty of the open hand. Long ago, there was an old Zen hermit who lived in a tiny, weathered wooden hut on the steep slope of a lonely mountain peak. He had lived in this quiet place for nearly 40 years, completely removed from the busy noise of the towns below. He owned almost nothing of value in the eyes of the world. Inside his hut, there was only a single straw sleeping mat, a small clay cup for water, a wooden bowl for his daily rice, and one worn brown wool robe that protected him from the biting winds that swept down from the snow-covered peaks during the winter months. He spent his long, peaceful days walking slowly through the pine trees, writing simple, quiet poems on scraps of fallen birch bark, and watching the white clouds drift silently across the vast blue sky. He had no locks on his wooden door, no gold coins hidden under the floorboards, and no plans for the future. One evening, after walking a very long distance down the mountain to visit an old sick friend in a small village, the hermit returned to his hut late at night. The sky was perfectly clear, and a magnificent full moon was floating high above the mountain, casting a soft silver light that turned the dark forest into a world of quiet magic. As he walked up the stone path toward his door, he noticed a faint, flickering light moving inside his room. Someone was there. The old hermit did not feel a single wave of anger or fear. He simply slowed his steps, walked quietly to the window, and looked inside. A poor thief was in the room, holding a small oil lamp with trembling hands, desperately searching every corner of the hut. The man was thin, his face was hollow with hunger, and his tattered clothes were damp from the evening dew. He looked under the sleeping mat. He searched behind the wooden bowl, and he tipped over the empty clay cup, hoping to find some food, some coins, or any small item he could carry away to sell. But there was absolutely nothing. The hut was as empty as the mountain air. The old hermit felt a deep, overwhelming wave of compassion for this poor traveler who had climbed such a steep, dangerous path in the dark, only to find an empty room. He did not want the man to feel the heavy sting of disappointment. So, the hermit stepped into the doorway, his face illuminated by the soft moonlight, and said with a voice that was as warm and comforting as a crackling hearth, "Welcome, my friend. I am so sorry you have traveled such a long, difficult way tonight, but there is really nothing of value in this house for you to take. Please do not leave my home with empty hands." With these gentle words, the hermit reached up to his shoulders, untied the simple cord around his waist, and took off his brown wool robe, the only robe he possessed, the one that kept him warm on the freezing mountain nights. He folded it slowly and carefully with both hands, held it out to the terrified thief, and said, "Please take this. It is not much, but it is warm, and it will protect you on your long walk back down to the valley." The thief stared at the old man in complete bewilderment, his mind unable to grasp such effortless kindness. He reached out with shaking fingers, took the folded robe, bowed quickly in confusion, and ran out of the hut, disappearing into the dark shadows of the pine trees. The old hermit stood in his thin undergarments, feeling the cool mountain breeze brushing against his bare skin. He did not feel poor. He did not feel robbed. He walked out onto his small wooden step, sat down, and looked up at the vast, silent night sky. The moon was so round, so bright, and so incredibly beautiful, painting the entire valley below in a sheet of shimmering silver. The hermit smiled a deep, radiant smile, shook his head slowly with a soft laugh, and whispered to the quiet forest, "Poor fellow. I wish I could have given him this beautiful moon." This is the profound secret of the third noble truth, showing us that when we stop clinging to our possessions, our identities, and our expectations, we become completely untouchable by the losses of the world. Most of us spend our entire lives clutching our robes, terrified that someone or something will take them away from us. We hold on so tightly to our wealth, our youth, our health, our plans, and our ideas of how life should be. We clench our fists, thinking that this grip is what keeps us safe. But the tighter we grip, the more anxious we become, because deep down, we know that everything in this life is constantly changing, constantly shifting, and constantly slipping through our fingers like dry sand. When you clench your fist, your hand becomes tense, tired, and closed to the rest of the world. But when you open your hand, you do not lose the world, you actually gain it. Your open palm can receive the cool rain, the warm sunlight, and the gentle breeze. The old hermit could give away his only robe because his true wealth was not inside his hut. His wealth was his capacity to appreciate the silver moonlight, the quiet of the mountain, and the deep peace of his own undivided mind. Tonight, you can let your hands open in the dark. Let go of the need to protect your plans for next week. Let go of the heavy expectation that you must be a perfect worker, a perfect partner, or a perfect person. Let the world take what it will, for the moon is still in the sky. Your breath is still moving in your chest, and the quiet space of your awareness remains completely untouched by the chaos of the day. You are not poorer for letting go. You are infinitely richer because you are returning to the simple, beautiful reality of who you are when you have nothing to defend. With the image of the silver moon resting gently in your heart, we can begin to walk the final path, the path of the fourth noble truth, which is the practical, daily art of tuning the strings of our being so that we can find our way back to the middle way. The Buddha called this path the Eightfold Path, a name that can sometimes sound very grand and complex when we read about it in old books. But in reality, it is a very gentle, down-to-earth way of living that anyone can practice in the middle of their ordinary days. It is made of 8 beautiful qualities: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The word right in this ancient path does not mean correct in a rigid, moralistic way. nor does it mean that you will be punished if you make a mistake. In the old language, the word was sama, which refers to something that is perfectly balanced, well-tuned, and in complete harmony with nature. Think of a beautiful, ancient stringed instrument, like a wooden lute or a classical guitar. If you turn the pegs too tight, the strings will stretch until they are stiff, and when you pluck them, they will make a sharp, harsh sound that hurts the ears, or they will simply snap and the music will end. But if you leave the pegs too loose, the strings will sag, they will not hold their shape, and when you touch them, they will make a dull, hollow whisper, with no melody at all. The instrument can only sing its beautiful healing song when the strings are tuned in the very middle, neither too tight nor too loose, nor. This is the middle way of the Buddha, a path that invites us to tune our lives with the same gentle patience. Most of us, in our modern, fast-paced society, are living with our strings pulled far too tight. We push our bodies to work through exhaustion. We fill our minds with endless streams of digital information. We demand constant success, and we force ourselves to stay strong even when our hearts are breaking. And then, when we finally lie down in our dark bedrooms for sleep, we try to force our minds to be quiet with that same rigid, aggressive energy. We tell ourselves, I must sleep right now. I have to stop thinking. If I don't sleep, I will fail tomorrow. But this is like plucking a string that is already about to snap. The tension only breeds more tension, and the sleep we crave remains miles away. Tonight, we can learn the art of tuning our minds in the middle. We can stop pushing, and we can stop neglecting. We can simply allow our effort to be gentle, soft, and patient. To see how this beautiful balance can transform your night, let us listen to the ancient story of a young man named Sona, who was once a highly celebrated musician before he decided to leave his old life behind and follow the teachings of the Buddha. Sona was incredibly talented, and he played the lute with a level of passion and sensitivity that could bring tears to the eyes of anyone who heard him. When he entered the monastery, he brought that same intense, fiery dedication to his spiritual practice. He decided that he would become fully awake faster than any other monk in the forest. He sat in meditation for hours without moving a single muscle, even when his back was screaming with pain. He walked along the stone paths of the grove for so many miles that his bare feet became bruised, blistered, and bleeding. He slept only 1 or 2 hours a night, and he ate only a tiny handful of grain each day, pushing his physical body to the very limits of human endurance. But after many months of this extreme, violent effort, Sona found himself completely broken. His body was weak. His mind was filled with a dark, heavy cloud of frustration, and he felt even further away from the peace of the Buddha than he had been when he was playing his lute in the villages. One evening, as the cool shadow of the mountain fell over the monastery, Sona sat by himself on a flat stone, weeping quietly in his loneliness, thinking that he was a failure and that he should simply give up his robes and go home. The Buddha heard of Sona's deep sorrow and walked quietly through the trees, sitting down beside the young man on the grass. He looked at Sona with eyes that held no disappointment, only a vast, comforting warmth, and said gently, "Sona, I have heard that when you lived in the world, you were a master of the lute. Is that true?" Sona wiped his face, bowed his head, and whispered, "Yes, teacher, it is true. I knew the lute better than any other instrument." The Buddha nodded and asked, "Then tell me, Sona, when you were tuning your instrument, what happened if you tightened the strings too much?" Sona answered immediately, "If I pulled them too tight, they would snap, or they would make a shrill, unpleasant sound that ruined the melody." "And what happened," the Buddha asked, "if you left the strings too loose and sagging?" Sona replied, "They would not vibrate, teacher. There would be no tone, and no music could be played." "And when," the Buddha asked, "did the lute play its most beautiful, soul-stirring songs?" Sona's face softened, a gentle smile appearing on his lips as he remembered his art, and he said, "When the strings were tuned just right in the exact middle, neither too tight nor too loose. Then the music was sweet, and the lute was in perfect harmony." The Buddha laid a warm hand on Sona's shoulder and said softly, "So it is with your own mind, my friend. If you strain your effort too tight, you will only create restlessness and anger. If you let your mind become too loose, you will fall into sleepiness and distraction. Tune your effort in the middle. Be gentle with your body. Be patient with your thoughts, and let your spirit find its natural balanced song." Sona understood the lesson in his very soul, and from that night on, he stopped his harsh practices, began to eat and rest with gratitude, and his mind settled naturally into a deep, steady peace that carried him effortlessly into his awakening. Let this ancient wisdom wash over your tired body as you lie in the quiet of your room tonight. How tight have you been pulling your strings today? Have you been holding your breath, clenching your teeth, and demanding that your life be perfectly organized? If so, you can let the peg turn back. Just a little bit. Right here, right now. You do not need to solve the mysteries of your life tonight, and you do not need to force your mind to become a blank sheet of paper. Sleep is not a mountain you have to climb through sheer willpower. It is a quiet valley you slip into when you stop running. If your mind is still busy with thoughts, do not fight them, and do not try to suppress them. That is pulling the string too tight. But do not follow them down their long, winding paths either. That is leaving the string too loose. Just watch them pass like clouds in the night sky. Just breathe. Feel the physical sensation of the air moving in and out of your body, and let yourself rest in the quiet space of the middle way, where there is no pressure, no judgment, and no destination. This gentle tuning of the mind brings us to the very heart of the long night under the great Bodhi tree. The night when the young seeker faced his own deepest shadows and found the quiet courage to remain still. He had spent 6 years searching. He had tried every extreme path, and now, having found the middle way by the river, he was ready to sit beneath the wide branches of the sacred pipala tree. He had gathered a simple handful of fresh green grass to sit on, crossed his legs, placed his hands open in his lap, and made a silent promise to his own heart that he would not rise until he had found the truth that could set all beings free. As the darkness fell over the fields, and the stars began to shimmer like tiny diamonds, the ancient stories tell us that the forces of doubt and fear, personified as the great illusionist Mara came to challenge him. Mara did not bring weapons. He brought the voices that live in the dark corners of every human heart. He whispered in a soft, mocking voice, "Who do you think you are to sit here in the quiet? You are just a fragile, ordinary man. You have made so many mistakes. You are not strong enough. You are not wise enough. And you will never find the peace you seek. Get up and go back to your palace, where it is safe." These are the exact same voices that visit you when you are trying to find sleep in the middle of the night. The voices that remind you of your failures, that exaggerate your worries, and that tell you tomorrow will be too difficult to face. But the young seeker did not argue with these voices. He did not try to shout them down, and he did not feel angry at them. He knew that to fight the shadows only makes them appear larger and more terrifying. Instead, he simply remained perfectly still, watching his breath, anchored in the absolute reality of his body, letting the doubts rise and fall like dry leaves blowing in the wind. Finally, when the voices became loud and demanding, asking what right he had to claim the ground beneath the tree, the seeker did a beautiful, silent thing. He let his right hand fall gently from his lap, and he let his fingertips touch the cool, damp earth beside him. He did not speak a single word of defense. He simply let his hand rest on the ground, letting the earth be his witness. He was saying, without words, "I am here. I am rooted in this moment. I am supported by this ground. The earth has watched me walk through all my days. It has held my steps through every season of struggle, and it knows that I belong here." The ancient stories say that the moment his fingers touched the soil, a deep, silent tremor of peace went through the entire world. The illusions of Mara shattered like glass, and the voices of doubt dissolved into the quiet night air, leaving nothing but the majestic silence of the forest and the cool, clean breeze rustling the leaves above. This is the exact practice you can bring to your own bed tonight for deep sleep. When your mind is spinning with overthinking, when the voices of worry are telling you that you are not doing enough, do not fight them. Do not try to solve them. Simply let your attention drop down out of your head and into your body. Feel the weight of your head resting on the pillow. Feel the warmth of your hands lying on your stomach. Feel the solid, reliable support of the mattress beneath your back. This is your earth-touching gesture. You're letting the bed, the room, and the earth hold you. You do not need to hold yourself up anymore. You do not need to solve the problems of the sky when you are safely rooted in the ground. Just breathe and let yourself sink deep into the quiet safety of this physical moment, where you are fully protected, fully supported, and fully allowed to rest. As the long night moved into its third and deepest watch, just before the first faint light of dawn appeared in the east, the seeker looked up through the dark, delicate leaves of the Bodhi tree and saw the morning star rising steady, bright, and beautiful on the horizon. It was a single, pure point of light, holding the silent promise of the new day. He looked at the star, and the star looked at him, and in that quiet meeting, the last remaining boundary of his mind melted away. He saw that he was not a small, isolated self, trying to survive in a cold, indifferent world. He saw that he was intimately connected to the star, to the tree, to the river, to the grass, and to every living being in the vast universe. He saw that the peace he had been hunting for through 6 years of struggle was not a place he had to travel to. It was the very nature of his own awareness, a quiet light that had been shining inside him since the day he was born, completely untouched by the storms of his life. The search was over. The night had ended, and he was awake. He had become the Buddha, which is not a god or a myth, but simply a word that means one who is awake to the true nature of reality. He stood up slowly from the grass, his body light, his mind clear and quiet as the morning sky. He bowed to the ancient tree in deep gratitude, and then he walked slowly out into the world, ready to share this simple, healing path with anyone who was willing to listen. This is the beautiful invitation that is waiting for you at the end of our journey tonight. The Four Noble Truths are not a set of difficult rules, and they are not a test you have to pass. They are simply a gentle mirror, showing you that the peace you have been seeking in your work, in your achievements, and in your endless thoughts is already here, resting quietly in the very breath you're taking right now. You do not need to become anyone else to be free. You do not need to have a perfect life, a perfect mind, or a perfect day to deserve rest. The small boy sitting under the rose apple tree so many years ago already knew this peace without trying, and so do you. The mattress beneath you is holding you with the same steady kindness that the earth offered to the Buddha. The dark room is sheltering you. The night is wrapping you in its quiet embrace. Your breathing is slow, soft, and natural, moving like a quiet wave on a peaceful shore. Let the doing rest. Let the planning rest. Let the monkey mind lay down its tired head and drift into the deep, healing waters of sleep, knowing that you are safe, that you are loved, and that this moment, exactly as it is more than enough. Sleep well, my friend, and may your dreams be filled with the quiet light of the morning star.